Hi everybody, TJ Mac Vintage Cards here, and today I'm profiling the 1967 Philadelphia chewing gum football set. And there's 198 cards in this set. Philadelphia chewing gum had made cards from 1964 until 1967. And they had the exclusive rights to the NFL cards, and then Topps had the rights to the AFL cards. And then in 1968, Topps took the rights over for both the AFL and NFL and put them in a combined set. And I have profiled that set in the past, and I'll put a link down to that one below. And I've also did the 64 Philadelphia set. In case you want to watch that video, I'll put that in the link below as well, which was their inaugural set. Now, the difference between that set is in the 64, they didn't have the NFL shield on the front of the cards, but starting in 65, they did. I think they just wanted to really show that prominence, that they were the official card of the NFL, being that they were in competition with Topps. And compared to the Topps designs, the Philadelphia designs are pretty conservative, but they're really known for their great photography. I love the photography on these cards. And the difference here, too, with this particular issue of Philadelphia versus the previous years, it's a little bolder in that it has this yellow border on it. The other ones always had a white border, but they always would put these rectangular shaped. They might put them in different positions, but with the players' names on the front of them, and here they got the positions and teams as well. And I'm just going to go up here and we'll talk a little bit about these cards. And normally I put my cards in numerical order, but today I wanted to put them in this order here because it's going to kind of flow with how I want to talk about each of them. But the Philadelphia cards were arranged in alphabetical order by city, and then they would put the players' names in alphabetical order. But if you look at the backs of the cards, so here in the back, you'll get some information. There's no statistics other than if they speak about them in the paragraph. Got the card number in the corner there. There's a trivia question that you could rub off for the answer. And what's neat here is if a player made the Pro Bowl that year previous in 66, it'll say Pro Bowl and then how many times they've made it. And then if they're all league, it would mention that, and then where they were all league under, Associated Press, NEA, or United Press International. And then compare that to here, even though Paul Hornung was a Pro Bowler in his career, he didn't make the Pro Bowl that year, so they didn't list anything there on the back of his, just the regular information like age, college, years pro, and then height and weight. So you can see the backs on these. And then let me just flip these over here. So let's now go through, we'll talk a little bit about the set. Is the PSA had graded just over 26,000 1967 Philadelphia cards. Again, there's 198 cards in the set. So that's on average, I believe, 100 and, let's look at my notes here, what I had. It's 131 cards on average of each player. And if you compare that to Topps, there's 609 cards in the Topps baseball set. And Topps has had PSA's graded over 255,000 67 Topps cards. So of Mickey Mantle, for example, there's 8,850 Mickey Mantles graded compared to only 412 Johnny Unitas is graded for the 67 Philadelphia set. So they're definitely not as common as baseball cards, but that also shows they're not quite as popular as baseball as well, even to this day with vintage collectors. But there's definitely far less of these cards out there than there are baseball cards, and they're still a great value. I mean, I love baseball, but football also has a very rich history, especially during this era with all the NFL films, documentaries that are out there, and just the many great books that are written. And 67 was a fun season in the NFL, and I'm going to get into that now because you see the Green Bay Packers situated right next to these Dallas Cowboy players, so I'm going to talk about this. First, we got Bart Starr. Bart Starr in the 67 season threw 9 touchdowns and he had 17 interceptions. Packers were 9-4-1 that year. They're starting to get some cracks in their dynasty. They really probably weren't the best team in the NFL, but when it counted, they did win the games in the playoffs and went to the Super Bowl and ended up beating the Oakland Raiders in the Super Bowl. So you got Bart Starr leading this off. Not, again, one of his best seasons. He played 12 games that year, more interceptions than touchdowns, which was not common for him. And his completion percentage was under 60%, which is uncommon for him as well. He usually was the leader in that category every year. And then next to him, we got the all-pro linebacker Ray Nitschke. And then here's Paul Hornung. Now you can see here he's got a different coloring on the bottom. And this is New Orleans Saints because this is the inaugural season of the Saints. And Paul Hornung was taken by the Saints in the expansion draft but he never played a game with them because he had a neck injury and it was career-ending. So his season, after the 1966 season, his career ended. So he did not play in '67. And I think here, like when you see some of the color schemes on the bottom, it really brings out the yellow on the border more so than some other ones, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. But next to him, you got Don Meredith and Bob Lilly. So you have the Cowboys and the Packers starting off here is the way I arranged it, because this is the year of the Ice Bowl, which was the NFL championship game between the Packers and the Cowboys in Green Bay. And it had temperatures that were, I believe it was like minus 30 or something like that, just very cold temperatures. And Green Bay ended up winning the game with a Bart Starr quarterback sneak at the end of the game, and again went on to the Super Bowl. And the Cowboys were also Rans, probably for the first of many times before they were able to finally get over the hump and win a Super Bowl against the Dolphins in the 1971 season. So next to Don Meredith, you got Bob Lilly, who is just an incredible defensive tackle, Hall of Famer, many-time Pro Bowler, and certainly in his prime in this era here when this card was made. And then next to him, you have Jackie Smith, and I put him there because there is a nice connection between Jackie Smith and the Cowboys. This is Jackie Smith's rookie card. He's a Hall of Fame tight end, and he ended up playing for the Cowboys in '78 when they went to the Super Bowl against the Steelers. And he's the one that dropped the pass from Roger Staubach that was right in his chest, and it bounced right out, and the Cowboys ended up losing that game thereafter. So you can't really blame it all on Jackie Smith because there was still time left. The Steelers ended up scoring some touchdowns and really opening up a lead on the Cowboys. But it definitely was a momentum changer. Unfortunately for Jackie Smith, that's what he's remembered for primarily, but he was just really a very good tight end, and again is in the Hall of Fame. So down here below, you have these two outstanding defensive linemen. Defensive end David Deacon Jones, who led the NFL in sacks that year, even though it wasn't an official stat, with 21.5. And he was also an All-Pro that year. And next to him, you have Merlin Olsen, Hall of Fame defensive tackle. This would have been his, I believe, third of 5 straight first-team All-Pros for him. And then he also went to 14 Pro Bowls. And I'm going to do a shout-out for Bears card 34 here. Brian, one of my good buddies, he's a big Merlin Olsen fan because Merlin Olsen went to Utah State, which is also where Brian went. And Olsen, they kind of said he was schizophrenic in the sense that he was just a really nasty guy on the field. Not a dirty player by any means, but just a really tough customer. And off the field, he was a real gentle soul. I mean, he was on TV on Little House on the Prairie, and then Father Murphy. He was also a broadcaster and did the FTD flower commercials. So it's just an interesting dynamic where how guys can turn it on and off when they're playing on the field and when they're off the field. And the Rams that year were actually 11-1-2, and they won the Coastal Division over the Baltimore Colts, who were also 11-1-2. So they had the two best records in football, and one of them didn't make the playoffs, and it was the Colts because they lost the tiebreaker. The defense on the Rams allowed 196 points in 14 games, was just over 14 points a game, and the Colts allowed 198 points in 14 games, and both had very good offenses. Now on this Raymond Berry card, this is actually not Raymond Berry, this is Bob Boyd. Raymond Berry was number 82, Bob Boyd is number 40, so this is an uncorrected error. So these are also the Unitas and Berry, one of the few cards that have helmets in the set on the players. Most of the time they're pose shots without the helmets. So these are really two nice cards because I do like to see the helmets on the players. And Johnny Unitas, that year, he had won the MVP. He threw for over 3,400 yards, 20 touchdowns, and this would be his third and final MVP of the year of his career. And he also had a 58% completion percentage, which led the league. But in the NFL in 2020, that would have been 33rd place, right around where Sam Darnold was. So it just shows you how much the game has changed over the years due to the rules that more favor the offensive now than the defense, like it did back in the 1960s. And then next to Johnny Unitas, you have Sonny Jurgensen, who led the NFL in passing yards that year with over 3,700 yards and touchdowns with 31 touchdowns. And then next to him, you have Fran Tarkenton, who was also in the top 5 for yards that year. These are probably the 3 most prolific passers in the NFL in the 1960s. And I got them all right in a row here, just 3 great-looking cards side by side. And now going down below here, we have 3 all-time Bears greats, and Mike Ditka, Dick Butkus, and Gale Sayers. This is Butkus's second-year card and Sayers' second-year card. And Gale Sayers that year finished with just over 800 yards, which was third in the NFL. Now, again, these were only 14-game seasons. And he also led the NFL in fumbles that year with 8 fumbles. Again, shows you how the game would change. The teams take so much more care of the ball nowadays. If you had 8 fumbles, you'd be sitting the bench at a running back position. Nowadays, usually they only have 1, 2, maybe 3 fumbles a year, your top running backs. And then next to him is Leroy Kelly. This is his rookie card. Leroy Kelly took over for the great Jim Brown when he retired in 1965. And Kelly just was a fantastic player. When he took over from 66 to 68, he led the league in rushing touchdowns all 3 years. He won 2 rushing titles, including in 1967 with 1,205 yards. He helped lead the Browns to a division title with a 9-5 record, and then they lost to the Cowboys in the playoffs. And he was a 3-time first-team All-Pro during that time. So you could say he did a pretty good job filling in for Jim Brown. And then next to him, you have Paul Warfield. This is actually a second-year card, even though his rookie was in 65. He didn't have a card in 66. And then we're wrapping it up with a Dave Wilcox rookie. He was a linebacker for the 49ers and a Hall of Famer. There's also a couple other Hall of Famers that have gotten in since I've completed the set, or completed this 18-card key card group that I wanted to do. And that's David Robinson with the Green Bay Packers and Chris Hamburger with the Redskins. And I don't have those 2 yet. I probably will get them, but I just haven't picked them up yet. And what I was saying about the coloring here, like these darker colors, I don't like those as much on the cards as I do like the blues. And even this yellow is kind of cool because it blends right in with the yellow and it makes that black really stand out. But the darker colors, these more earth tone colors, I don't like them as much on the cards as I do the lighter colors. So this, again, is the 1967 Philadelphia set. I really, really appreciate you watching, and have a great weekend.